In this video, I will be showing you how to make trendy and cool looking typography designs that can be done in one day for your portfolio. Most of these are really quick and easy to create if you are in a rush to add typography work last minute in your portfolio. I got inspired to make this video because when I was a student who needed typography designs in my portfolio, I struggled to find the right kinds of videos that would show me how to create quick and good looking typography designs for last minute. I hope that this video will help you guys, especially if you're in a rush. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so this first design is a pretty trendy one that I've been seeing going around on Pinterest. To create this, you will need to make a background color using the square tool. Then add text using the font that you want. Afterward, you can either create your own shape or download different kinds of shapes and objects from all free downloads. Just remember that if you do end up using anything from the all free downloads website, you must change the color and some features of the object that you want to use to avoid any copyright strikes and getting sued. It's very important to try to make the object that you want in your own style to avoid any issues. Okay, so once you are done, you have to select all objects, right-click, and select Group. Go to Effect and select 3D and Materials. Within that option, select Inflate. Then, if you want, you can change the appearance by going to Properties on the right side and adjusting the settings to how you'd like. Also, if you would like to change the color or feature of a certain object, then you will need to ungroup by pressing and holding onto Shift, Command G for Mac, or Shift Control G for Windows. Once you're done, you can export it as PNG or JPEG file. While exporting, if you want none of the objects out of your board, then make sure to select Use Boards in the option settings. I want the clouds for mine to be included off the board, so I will not select that option. Anyways, this is the final result of how mine looks like, and I really love the outcome. Here's the next design that I will be teaching you how to make. To make this, you will first add a color background by using the square tool. Then you will add your text using the font that you want. Next, you will make your text into a warp or mesh object so that it will be able to fade. Adjust the settings to what you'd like, or you can copy my settings. Now, you will duplicate your text layer by pressing Alt while dragging your text. Once you're done, make sure to put it behind your original text layer. Select both texts, then go to Object, select Blend, and click on Make. Then you will go again to Blend and click on Blend Options. Within Blend Options, select Specified Steps and set it to 80. Now you can play around with the layers by moving them and adjusting them to how you'd like them to look. This is optional, but to make this look cooler, go to Effects and select Effect Gallery. Within Effect Gallery, select Grain and copy the setting that I have on my screen. Once you're done, you can export your design as a PNG or JPEG file. This is how the finished typography design looks. I did make 2 other different variations, so here they are. And I'm super proud and happy with how they turned out. This next typography design is a very simple and fun one. All that you will need to do is create a background color using the square tool. Then add text using the font that you would like. I'm going to type out the word fish, but you can type out any word that you would like. Then click on Make Envelope. Within the options, select fish. You can set the fish mode to look like however you want, or you can copy my settings on the screen. Now I'm going to create eyes for my fish, but you don't have to do this part. I'm going to copy my fish by pressing Alt and dragging it down. Then go to Object, Transform, and select Reflect. I want to change the color, so on the left side, I'll click on the star-looking option, which will allow me to change colors and edit features of my fish. Once you are done, make sure to set it back to the original mesh setting. I added an outline to my fish, but this is totally optional for you. I wanted a shadow in the background of my fish, so I duplicated the fish text and placed it in the back. I proceeded to set the opacity to 61%, went to Effect, Blur, and selected Gaussian Blur. I don't know how to pronounce that, but yeah, I selected that. You can make it as blurry as you want. Now you can export it as a PNG or JPEG file. This is how it looks like when finished, and I think it looks adorable. We're now going to make this super easy and colorful typography design. To create this, you will need to download the Gilbert Color Bold font from Adobe's Font Gallery. Once you've done that, you're going to type out whatever word that you want with this font. Then you will need to go to Effect, 3D Materials, and select Inflate. Within the settings, go to Depth and select Off-Axis Front. I'm going to set the depth to how I would like it to be. You can either copy or set it to whatever you'd like. Now I'm going to click on this half square dotted option to make my text glazed. Click on the down arrow, select the highest quality, checkmark Reduce Noise, and Render as Vector. Then click Render. I forgot to add a color background, so I'm going to do that by using the square tool. This next step is optional because it can be a bit tricky, but I'm going to create my own shadow. There is a setting option for the shadow instead of making your own. However, it looked very weird when I tried it out, plus the rendering took forever. So I'm making my own by adding a rectangle in the back and altering its appearance. I also made sure to change the opacity and blur it to get the nice shadow effect. You may want to skip this step and move to the next step, which is adding surroundings that you can either make or download from All Free Downloads website. Once you are done, you can export it. Make sure to checkmark Use Artboards to prevent any objects that aren't on your board from being included in the export process. This is how mine turned out, and I think it turned out awesome. I hope yours also turned out great. Next, we'll be making this 3D typography design that's also very simple to create. To get started, make a background color using the square tool. Then create a new layer and add your text using the font that you want. If you don't already have the 3D materials board open, you can get that by going to Effect, 3D Materials, and selecting Extrude. I'm going to change the position of my text, but you don't have to change yours to the exact same position as mine. You just need to make it slightly tilted. I'm also going to play around with the depth, and I don't have any recommended settings. Just play around with it until you are fully satisfied with the appearance. Now, to get the look that you want, turn on the bevel settings. I think that's how you pronounce it, sorry. Within bevel, you will have different great options to change the appearance of your text. As you can see, I'm just testing out each option to show you what you can do. You can either try to copy my settings or have fun and select different settings. Now I'm going to add a shadow, but this is something totally optional because it can be tricky. To make the shadow, I created a new layer behind my text and created another text using the same kind of font. I did my best to also place it in the same position as my original text. Then I changed the opacity to be a bit transparent. Lastly, I went to Effects, Blur, and selected Gaussian Blur. Oh my goodness, I think I'm mispronouncing that, but you can see what I selected. This next part is also optional, but if you have time, you can add surrounding objects. I recommend being creative and having fun when doing this. When you're done, you can export it. As always, if you don't want any objects that aren't on your board to appear after exported, then checkmark Use Artboards. This is how mine looks like when exported. My favorite thing about this typography design is that it is very simplistic to make, and you can be creative by adding surrounding objects to make it pop out more. Here's the next cool design that we will make. To make this, you will need to add text using the font that you would like. I was supposed to create the background color first, but now I will do that. Once you're done, select your text and click on the warp option. You can play with these settings like me and set it to whatever you want. Also, the reason why I'm making this into a warp or mesh object is because the fading effect tool wouldn't work with me unless I did so. Next is to duplicate text by pressing on Alt and dragging the text. Change the settings from mesh to the star looking symbol so that you can change the color of the text to the same color as my background. Click on the eye option to hide the background color so that we can see our text. Adjust both texts, making sure that they're behind one another. Go to Object, Blend, and select Make. Now, unhide your background color. I'm going to make 2 more fading letters, but if you only wanted to do one, then you can go right ahead and export it. Instead of redoing all these steps, I'm going to duplicate the text that I already have and just change the A to a B. Then, switch settings from Mesh Object to the star symbol so that you can change the text letter. When you're done, make sure to change it back to Mesh Object. Repeat the same steps for the 3rd letter. Once you're done, you can export it as PNG or JPEG. This is what my typography design looks like when exported, and I absolutely love it. Our next typography design is this popular one that I've seen a lot on the internet. To get started, I'm going to make a circle using the circle tool. Now set your circle to only have the outline. Create a background color using the square tool in a new layer. We're going to go back to our layer with the circle and select the knife tool by clicking on the down arrow on the eraser tool. If you cannot find the knife tool, then change the workspace by heading to Windows, Workspace, and selecting Essentials Classic. With the knife tool, we're only going to make 2 cuts. Ended up making 4, but you only really need 2, and that's what I recommend, especially if you're in a rush. Now, create a new layer and add your text using the font that you'd like. Make sure to drag your text layer down to the last layer, and if your text layer is within a group layer, then make sure within that group layer that your text is also the last. If you do not do this step, then the next step will not work, so make sure you get that right. When you're done, go to Object, Envelope Distort, and select Make with Top Object. Repeat the same steps for the other 2 words. When you're done, you can change the color of the text and add an outline like me if you aren't satisfied with the current appearance. Lastly, you can export it as a PNG or JPEG. This is how mine looks like when exported, and I'm very satisfied with the results. I hope yours also turned out great. We're now going to make this wavy typography design. First, make a background color by using the square tool. Then, add your text using the font that you would like. I'm going to type the word groovy twice, but you can always type out a different word. Next, click on Warp. In the Style option, select Wave. You can copy my settings or play around with it to see what works best for you. When you're done, select the Paintbrush tool option and make a squiggly line between the 2 words. Duplicate text by pressing and holding down onto the Alt key while also dragging down on the text. Make sure that you center it in the middle of your front text. Change the color to something darker by clicking on the star symbol on the top left. When you are done, make sure to change it back from the star symbol to the mesh object symbol. Select both texts, go to Object, Blend, and select Make. I'm not satisfied with how the front text looks, so I'm going to change the color. To do so, select the star symbol and, when done, change it back to the Mesh Object option. I also changed the color of the background. Now, I'm going to add a star with a gradient in the background, but you can be creative and add a different shape, object, or surroundings. I duplicated my star and set it to only show the outline. Then I went to Effect, Blur, and selected Radio, or however you pronounce that, Radio Blur. I set the blur method to be spin and the spin to be 16. Lastly, I exported my typography design. This is how it looks like when finished, and I think it turned out a lot better than I initially thought. Next up is this 3D typography design similar to the one before the previous design. To get started, create a background color using the square tool. In a new layer, make a circle using the circle tool. Hold down on the shift key while creating the circle to get the perfect round shape without making an oval. Set your circle to only have the outline. Select the knife tool by clicking on the down arrow on the eraser tool. If you cannot find the knife tool, then change the workspace by heading over to Windows, Workspace, and selecting Essentials Classic. With the knife tool, we're only going to make 2 cuts. Create a new layer and add your text using the font you want. Make sure to drag your text layer down to be the last layer, and if your text layer is within a group layer, then make sure that within the group layer your text is also the last. Select your text and the top portion of your circle. Go to Object, Envelope Distort, and select Make with Top Object. Repeat the same steps for the other 2 words. Now, duplicate your text layer by pressing the Alt key while scaling it to be smaller in the center of your front text. Also, change the color to be a darker tone. Select both texts, go to Object, Blend, and select Make. You're going to select Blend Options, and here's the shortcut. Set it to be 80. Now I'm going to edit the different text layer colors by double or triple clicking on the text that I first would like to edit. When done, you can export it if you're truly in a rush, or you can add surrounding objects. In my case, I decided to add shining stars around my typography design. Once I was done, I exported it, and I made sure to checkmark use artboards because I did not want any objects that weren't on my board to appear in the export process. This is the completed look, and I'm pretty proud of the results. I hope you love how yours turned out, and if not, you can always retry or play around with the settings. This next typography design is something I've been seeing around the internet, and is something that not only looks cool but is something pretty easy to make if you're in a hurry. Let's start by creating a background color by using the square tool. Next, add text using the font that you want. Then, you're going to create a new layer under the layer with the text and add text again, this time preferably using the font entitled Engravers MT. If you don't have this font, you can always download it from Adobe's font gallery. Create a new layer, but this time it has to be on the top of everything. Add text using the font that you would like, or you can use a similar font to mine. Now you have to turn it vertically. I had trouble doing this, so I decided to turn it into a flat object, which kind of made it somewhat easier. When I was done, I duplicated it by pressing and holding on the Alt key while dragging my text. Select both texts holding down on the Alt key and dragging to duplicate again. Now while both texts are still selected, go to Object, Transform, and select Reflect. Set the Reflect to be vertical. Now we're going to do the same thing again, but this time horizontal. Now I'm just going to change the appearance of my text by playing around with the settings under the Object, Material, and Lighting tabs. I ended up not liking the font that I originally had, so I changed it and edited the appearance to something else. You can try to copy my settings, but I would like for you guys to be creative and come up with your own design appearance. I'm going to add a shadow to the background of my letters so that it is more readable. To do this, create a new layer underneath the main text that you would like to have a shadow. Type out the same word using the same font. Go to Effect, Blur, and select Gaussian Blur. I do not know how to pronounce that, but yeah, select that option. Within this setting, you can set your shadow to be as dark or light as you want. Now, export as PNG or JPEG. This is the final result, and I think it turned out nice. Up next is another very easy typography design to make. First, create the background color by adding a square. Next, type out your text using the font that you want. Edit the color and add an outline if that's what you'd like. Copy the text and keep pasting it down until there is no space on your board. Now go to the top right and select Make with Warp. In the style option, select Fish, then copy my settings on the screen. Now you can scale it to be smaller or larger. I also changed the color of my text, which is something that you can do if you are not fully satisfied. Finally, export it as a PNG or JPEG. This is how mine looks like when exported, and I think it's a great typography design for when you're in a rush. Moving on, we'll be making the simplistic typography design. As always, create the background color first by using the square tool. In a new layer, add your text using the font that you would like. Edit the color and add an outline if that's what you want. Then copy and paste the text. You can change the color of your second text like me. Copy both and keep pasting until you reach the end of your board. Go to the right and select Make with Warp. In the style options, select Twist. You can copy my settings or play around with it and do your own thing. When done, make sure to export it as a PNG or JPEG. Now this is how mine looks like when finished, and I hope that yours turned out great or even better than mine. Anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you found this video helpful and beneficial, especially if you are in a rush to adding typography designs or designs in general into your portfolio. I know what it's like being a student and just needing some kind of designs in your portfolio last minute. It happens, but yeah, that's it for this video. Please make sure to like this video and leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Bye, and I hope you have a great day.